Peace and blessings, Omo House. Ja Rain here. It is Friday night, and we are back to do what we do. It has been a really, really interesting week for many of us watching what is going on. I know for me specifically, sometimes I feel like I'm at a loss for words. So one of the things that I was trying to figure out in my own state of consciousness is really what is going on. And thankful to a number of people in my world, they started throwing these articles about gaslighting, which I had never heard that term before. And so I said to myself, if I don't know what gaslighting is, maybe other folks don't know what gaslighting is as well. And so I found a really wonderful article from the American Psychological Association, who broke down some tips on how to identify what gaslighting is. And the thing that's interesting about gaslighting, which I didn't know, is that there was a movie in the 1940s, I believe, that talked about this particular phenomenon. And interestingly enough, it's about a man, I think, who's trying to make his wife go crazy. And so if you get a chance, try to find this movie called Gaslighting, because it shows you this particular technique in action. And so, let's talk about what is gaslighting. Because I think the whole perspective is that if we can identify what gaslighting is, we can know when particular techniques are being used in order to protect ourselves. So the thing that's interesting is that I would probably say that much of what we've seen over the last year, there may have been these techniques happening. But once you become a victim of it and you're not aware of it, then something begins to happen to you. So you're sort of defenseless. So it's interesting because I know I talked to a few people in my community that will tell me that they don't know why they found themselves attracted to certain candidates. And I would say that it's possible that they may have fallen victim to gaslighting. So here we go. So the first thing is it is a behavior in which a person or entity participates in this particular behavior in order to gain more power. And ultimately, the objective is to have a person lose their sense of reality and question themselves like, wait a second, something, one of those moments like you're like, moments, right? So they want folks to know that anyone is susceptible to gaslighting. Now, the thing that's interesting is that they seem to see this technique a lot in abusers, narcissists, dictators. And so, I guess you could say it's a personality flaw, but these are the people that tend to make use of gaslighting, as well as cult leaders. So that's interesting. So now the thing that's interesting is that gaslighting is something that takes place over time. It is done slowly because they don't want the victim or victims of gaslighting to know that they are being brainwashed. And so the movie that I was mentioning is called Gaslight. It's from 1944, and it's about a man who manipulates his wife to the point where she thinks she's losing her mind, right? So what I'm going to talk about now is the techniques that are used in gaslighting. So the first technique is that they will tell you blatant lies. So, I think the thing that's interesting to me is that I personally am not used to people lying blatantly to me. And so I think we have to look at why this technique is used. And so this is really interesting, right? So the person who's being lied to knows it's a lie. They know it's a straight out lie. And the person is telling you this lie to your face with a straight face. And so you say, like, would you really lie to me? Would you really be that blatant and look at me in my face and lie to me this way? And the reason that they're doing it is they're actually trying to set like a precedent, a standard, a foundation. Because once they tell you, this is a quote from the article, once they tell you a huge lie, you're not sure if anything they say is true. So why would they do that? So the objective around that is they're trying to throw you off kilter. They want to keep you unsteadied. So it's like, you might say that's ridiculous. Why would you lie to me, right? But the point is, they will do that. So, I mean, imagine if I look at you right now and I say, today is Sunday. And you know it's Friday, right? And I'm looking at you and I'm like, no, today is Sunday. Today is Sunday. And you would look at me like, why would you do that? So now you don't know, like, you start going, is it Sunday? Wait. And then you start questioning me. So it's meant to throw you off. Right. So now the second thing is they will do something or say something and deny that they ever said that thing or did that thing, even though you have proof. So this is also part of the technique. So the APA says, or the article writer says, you know, they said they would do something. You know you heard it, but they out and out deny it. It makes you start questioning your reality. Maybe they never said that thing. And the more they do this, the more you question your reality and start accepting theirs. So once again, remember, there's an ultimate objective to this process. So if, you know, I think if we look at certain things, like we've heard he who shall not be named say something like, I never said that. Or, you know, we said, well, you made fun of a handicapped person and we have it on video. Well, I never did that. So, you know, you even have people saying, well, no, he never did that, because they began to buy into his reality, right? So this is part of it, right? To pull you to a different position than you originally were. Now, the third thing, they use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. So whatever is important to you, whatever matters to you, whatever is part of your identity, that is what will be used to sort of break you apart. Now think about it. Part of what we saw during the election season was patriotism and love for America, right? Like, think of the slogan, make America great again. Like, this is what was important to these people that voted for him. Like, he literally took what mattered to them: jobs, the economy, faith, gun freedoms, and all, you know, First Amendment, moving out of poverty, returning communities. And interestingly enough, what we saw over the last week is using those same things against the folk, right? So we see that this is not something that just happened. This is something that we're in the process of, like, we're being gaslighted, right? So, technique number 4, wear you down over time. So if we know that's the technique, what we should prepare ourselves for now is the realization that this is something that is just starting, because it's a process that happens gradually, slowly. And it's interesting because I love this metaphor that they use, which is the frog in the frying pan. And so psychologically, what happens if you put a frog in a frying pan and you turn it really, really low, what will happen is the frog will just be chilling on a pan. Like, the frog will be like, yeah, it's kind of warm up in here. And then over time, with no awareness, you have now cooked the frog to death because the frog never saw it coming. So understand that this is one of the techniques. Number 5, their actions do not match their words. And so one of the things that this psychologist is emphasizing is when you're dealing with a person who is utilizing this gaslighting technique, never pay attention to what they are saying. Their words mean nothing. It's just talk. You have to pay attention to what they're doing. So, for example, when you say to folk, give a perfect example, that you are about making economic conditions better for people, if your first action is to sign into law an action that will make things difficult for poor people, didn't matter what you said, you got to pay attention to what was done, right? So when you're being gaslit, of course, right? It's like every time I record. So it doesn't matter what the person says, you got to look at the actions. Next thing. Come on, puppy. Brooklyn. I know, it's like clockwork. They throw in positive reinforcements to confuse you. Now, I think if we pay attention to this, we will notice that this happens a lot. There's this movement in which you will see all of this craziness, but then there'll be moments of saying something good about the people, like you're the smartest, you know politics, you love this country better, because at some point you've got to counterbalance all of the insanity that they have been exposed to, right? So I think this article, I think, is specifically talking about being gaslit one-on-one or in small groups, but I think you can apply this in a more global a way when you're talking about politics. Next point, they know confusion weakens people. Gaslighters, and I'm going to read this directly because I think it's important. Gaslighters know that all people like having a sense of stability and normalcy. Their goal, the gaslighter, is to uproot and make you constantly question everything, because it's the human's natural tendency to, seek some sort of balance, and unfortunately, they will look at the gaslighter for stability. And I think that you can see this happening now, right? Because I would say that the number of actions this week is really confusing people. And so it is almost as if people are looking to this same person to create a sense of normalcy, like slow down, do something different, please don't be doing this. Like it's almost as if we're being programmed to just go along, and we're going to look for him to make the change, for him to slow down, for him to be more normal, but we're being gaslit, right? So next point, they project. So one of the things, think of it like a drug dealer or someone who is having an affair, right? Like if you were in a relationship with someone who was having an affair on you, right? They're never going to admit that they're the person doing drugs or they're the person that's cheating. What they're going to do is say, why are you cheating on me? Or, you're the person with the problem. So this is done in order to have you defend yourself, and instead of really getting to the issue, or having the gaslighter have more appropriate behavior, you're just continually defending yourself, and so it's sort of a distraction. So think about it. When you get all these tweets happening, what happens is people begin to defend themselves, as opposed to realizing like, yo, you the one that's batty crazy, but we're defending our constitutional right to speak, or we have a right to protest, instead of saying like, wait a second, we're not defending why we do what we do. You're the person who's committing the offense. Next thing is that they try to align people against you. So what that means is they try to get folks to be on their side. And I think, we start seeing this in different ways politically, who is supporting some of the insanity. So, we have to be mindful that this is sort of like creating a groupthink sort of mentality. the next thing is they tell you and others that you are crazy, or you are wrong, or you are unpatriotic, or you are un-American, or you are whatever. So this is one of the most effective tools, because what it is that they try to dismiss you. The gaslighter knows that if you are somehow invalidated or seen as less than or seen as crazy, people will not believe you. So, I mean, think about it. This is what's happening with the media, right? We have this, fake news and alternative facts. So all of this is meant to question what is happening, right? So we can't look at this in the individual. We have to look at this collectively. And then this sort of reinforces it, the next point. They tell you that everyone else is a liar, right? So the gaslighter is not a liar, but everyone else is a liar. So when we look at this, who are the liars? The people that we are trying to get rid of, the media, anyone that is not supporting what the gaslighter is saying as their truth. So why are we having this conversation? Well, I think what is really, really important is that we continue to root this conversation in a spiritual dialogue. And so when these things begin to happen, there is no way that your spirit cannot be impacted. And so, while I try to do my best to not be part of politics, the quote that comes to me in my spirit right now is that we fight not against flesh and blood, but principalities in high places. And so what that means is that there is a spiritual energy that goes along with all events in life. And so one of the things that I've always said is I believe that if you boil things down, you either have this sense that love is in this space or fear is in this space. And so if it ain't love, it's fear. If it's fear, it ain't love. And so I think we have to be mindful that while these 10 or 11 techniques are helpful in knowing what's going on, what we have to ask ourselves is the bigger question is, if this is happening to us, what is the spiritual impact? What is the impact on our emotions? What is the impact on our ability to connect with one another? What is our impact to have faith, to be trusting, to be hopeful? And so clearly these sort of manipulative energies impact who we are and how we be in the world. So more than anything, no matter what your political stance is, we need to be diligent and say to ourselves, if a human being would be willing to do this, if a human being is practicing these sorts of behaviors, what is their spiritual core? What is their spiritual outlook? Because if they're not vibrating in a consciousness that is rooted in love, then clearly there's fear going on. And so really what's most important is that we shed ourselves of the energy that can be magnetized energetically to this sort of thing. So I would say most likely that if we are experiencing being gaslighted, there are energies that will be magnetically attracted to us. This fear energy will begin to be part of our being. We will move through the world and begin to feel hopeless and begin to feel as if we are powerless. And so really what we need to be mindful of is that when we go, oh, okay, I'm seeing this, how do I cleanse that energy from my being, from my aura, from my whatever those words that you use? Because it is almost as if this is a form of spiritual warfare. So I think it's important to be mindful that this is beyond politics. This is about how our spirit is being impacted, how our faith is being shaped to respond in a particular way. And so it is important to know when these things are happening, because it is not just a thing that is happening. It is a principality that is impacting your being. It is an energy that has the ability to enter your soul and do a thing. And so for those reasons alone, when you see these 11 things happening, it is a time to meditate. It is a time to breathe. It is a time to pray. It is a time to go in and find your resiliency and your resolution to not be dragged to this low vibration. So that's what I got. Thanks for joining me. Peace and blessings. And until we meet again in the virtual sanctuary, peace out. Same to you.